The secret on the steps. The late afternoon sun streamed through the tall windows of the children's hospital, painting golden stripes across the wide marble steps. Jake Mitchell sat quietly on one of the lowest steps, his work-worn hands resting on his knees. His blue overalls carried the honest marks of a day spent fixing broken things, grease stains on the sleeves, oil under his fingernails, the comfortable weight of tools in his pockets. He had come here to repair a heating unit in the pediatric wing. What should have been a simple job had turned into something more complicated. Old buildings always held surprises, pipes that led nowhere, connections that made no sense. But after 4 hours of patient work, he had finally coaxed the system back to life. Now he sat resting on the cool stone steps, watching the quiet rhythm of hospital life through the glass doors behind him. Nurses moved with gentle purpose down the hallways. Families spoke in hushed voices. The whole building seemed to breathe with a special kind of energy, hope mixed with worry, healing touched by heartache. That was when he noticed her little girl sat alone on the steps, maybe 8 feet away from him. She wore a soft pink knit hat that covered her head completely, her small arms wrapped around a well-loved teddy bear with brown fur that had been smoothed by countless hugs. One of the bear's ears was slightly frayed. Its black button eyes had lost some of their shine from years of faithful companionship. The child's legs, thin beneath blue hospital pajamas, hung over the edge of her step. Her feet, tucked into fuzzy slippers shaped like cats, swayed gently back and forth. She seemed lost in thought, gazing up at the high ceiling where afternoon light created dancing patterns. Jake had worked in hospitals before. He recognized the signs, the careful way she held herself, the pale complexion that spoke of too many days spent indoors, the quiet stillness that came from spending long hours in treatment rooms and waiting areas. She was sick, very sick. He wanted to say something kind, but what words could he offer? His own daughter Emma was healthy and strong and probably at home right now, playing in the backyard or asking for help with math homework. This little girl lived in a completely different world. After several minutes of peaceful silence, the girl turned to look at him directly. Her eyes were bright and alert, like they held wisdom too deep for someone so young. "Are you the repairman?" she asked. Her voice was soft but steady. Jake nodded slowly. "That's right. I fix heating systems mostly. Sometimes other things that stop working properly." He gestured toward the hospital entrance. "Just got the heat working again in the children's wing." "That's important," she said, as if this was serious business. "Kids get cold when they're sick." The simple truth of her words touched something in his chest. "Yes," he said, "they do." She studied his face for a long moment, her head tilted slightly. "I'm Sarah," she said finally. "I'm Jake." "Jake," she repeated thoughtfully, like she was deciding whether the name suited him. "That sounds like a good name for someone who fixes things." They sat together in the warm afternoon light, two strangers sharing the same wide steps. The hospital continued its quiet work around them. Somewhere a bell chimed softly. Footsteps echoed down distant corridors, but here on the marble stairs, time seemed to slow down and soften. Sarah shifted her position carefully, and Jake caught the small wince that crossed her face. He pretended not to see it, but he noticed the deliberate way she had to think about each movement, the way her breathing required just a little more effort than it should. "These steps are really high," she said after a while, looking up toward the second-floor landing. "They are," Jake agreed. "This hospital was built a long time ago. Back then, they made everything bigger. Higher steps, taller ceilings, wider hallways." Sarah nodded seriously, like this was important information to remember. Then she looked directly at him with those knowing, bright eyes. "If you carry me up the stairs," she said quietly, "I'll tell you a secret." The words hung in the air between them like a bridge. Jake felt his heart tighten in his chest. This wasn't his child. This wasn't his responsibility. He was just a repairman who happened to be sitting on some steps. But something in her voice, in the careful way she had made her offer, told him this mattered. More than mattered. It was essential. "Okay," he said simply. Sarah's face lit up with the first real smile he had seen from her. It changed everything about her appearance, made her look less like a patient and more like the little girl she was underneath all the medical complications. Jake stood up and walked over to where she sat. He knelt down beside her, his work boots making soft sounds against the stone. "Is this all right?" he asked, showing her how he would lift her. She nodded and raised her arms toward him. The teddy bear stayed firmly gripped in one small hand. She weighed less than he had expected, much less than Emma, who was probably about the same age. Her body felt delicate in his arms, like something precious that needed extra gentle handling. But she settled against him with complete trust, her head coming to rest against his shoulder. Step by step, Jake climbed the marble staircase. His boots created a steady rhythm on the stone. Sarah's breathing was quiet and even near his ear. The teddy bear's worn face looked out over his shoulder as they rose higher into the golden light. When they reached the top landing, Jake carefully set Sarah down. She steadied herself against the stone railing and looked back down the long flight of stairs they had just climbed together. "We came up really far," she said with quiet satisfaction. "We did," Jake agreed. "So what's this secret you wanted to share with me?" Sarah looked up at him, her expression growing serious and wise beyond her years. "The secret is," she said slowly, "sometimes the most important thing isn't being strong enough to climb the mountain yourself. It's being brave enough to let someone help you get there." Jake felt something warm and profound settle in his chest, a recognition of truth he hadn't expected to find on a hospital staircase. "That's a very good secret," he said softly. "I thought you might understand it," Sarah said. "You seem like someone who helps people reach places they can't get to alone." Before Jake could respond, a nurse appeared at the top of the stairs. "There you are, Sarah," she said with gentle authority. "Your parents are looking for you." Sarah waved goodbye to Jake as the nurse guided her down the hospital corridor. Just before she disappeared around a corner, she turned back one more time. "Thank you for helping me reach the top," she called. Jake stood alone on the landing for several quiet minutes, looking down at the marble steps below. His work here was finished. The heating system was running smoothly. His tools were packed away. It was time to go home to his own family, his own life. But as he walked down those tall steps, he carried something new with him, a secret about courage and connection, about the moments that change us when we least expect them, about how sometimes the most important repairs happen not to machines, but to the spaces between human hearts. The afternoon sun was setting now, but its warmth seemed to linger on the stone steps, in the memory of a small act of kindness that had meant everything.